Tell me what you think about that process in there. What's going on?
So this is supposedly the second community hearing for the Strap LNG plant that National Grid is proposing, and there is no community hearing. They've set up kind of a interview process where the community member sits privately with a panel of 3 people from National Grid and DEM and somebody who's taking notes, and all the rest are left outside of this process in kind of like a waiting room, like a doctor's office. This is absolutely not a community conversation. This is absolutely ridiculous, and this is not a way where we can participate in decision making. Something that is top down, decided in a very inequitable conditions, where nobody can hear comments, discussions. It's everything like closed doors. Right. Even though it's in a wide room, you can't hear what they're saying.
So when you were sitting there, did you speak with them? Did you go through the process? I
did go over and I did say this makes no sense. We all need to come together. And right. They completely ignored me. Right. They ignored my comments and continued talking to this other person and continue working as a panel of 3 with this one community member as if I didn't exist. Right. So calling for everybody to come and be allowed to come around the table was something that was completely ignored. And they made sure that there were not enough chairs around for people. Obviously we can go to other rooms and right. grab some chairs, but the setup is such that it is limiting for community participation.
No, normally I go to meetings like this and there'll be a microphone, there'll be people recording it, and you can stand up and people will be able to, the community can talk. A person would get up and speak.
Yeah.
Another person might listen to what that person says, say, exactly. Oh, that's a good point, and then maybe build on that point. But when you break it down person to person in these small micro conversations, you're kind of separating out the voices of people who might be better off working together. I mean, it atomizes it, I think.
Yeah, it fragments the community participation. Right. And that's the way to break down any kind of... So when we're talking about regulations and we're talking about community participation, we're talking about making decisions together, building consensus. First hearing, all I heard was from the community members is, no, we don't want any of this road infrastructure work, we don't want any of the cap removed, we don't want the LNG plant installation, and yet none of that was heard. How is decision making participatory and made together with the community when community voices are not heard? Their stance is that those community voices are outside the radius of what's needed. Of course, the community is next to the Port of Providence. Right. It's next to this industrial toxic complex. We cannot be inside of it because that's where the chemical plants are and where the fuel plants are. It's almost like playing a game of as if people's lives were not at stake, right. If children's lives and health was not at stake. It is quite saddening to see this kind of level of game playing at these kinds of agency, DEM, and regulatory, those who have jurisdiction over this area, not stepping up to the plate, accepting responsibility, creating open discussions, creating opportunity for community participation. It's all done in a very shady way. Right.
So what does the DEM have? What does DEM, the Department of Environmental Management, what have they done for you?
Nothing.
Nothing. So
what they've done is allow corporate and private interest to develop in the state of Rhode Island and to go ahead against the framework that the city of Providence and community members are developing towards a just transition, towards transitioning from extractive fuel economy towards a regenerative economy. This framework has been finalized, is being approved by the city of Providence as we speak. They go against city municipality interests, they go against the resident and community interest, and they just are not interested to listen at all.
So if DEM isn't doing it, who's DEM's boss? I mean, who do we go to next?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And that's something that requires community organizing.
Sure.
I do think that at state level, there needs to be more leadership from Gina Raimondo.
Yeah.
And more involvement about what's happening in her state, and more listening to what community members have to say.
Right.
That's definitely one thing. And in terms of agency jurisdictions, everybody has a slice and nobody wants to take full responsibility, like CRMC, Coastal Resource Management Commission, and DEM, and then ultimately FERC at a national level, but they're all passing, they're saying our hands are tied, or they're all really not taking responsibility and not stopping something that the community has clearly, articulately said no to, and the Massachusetts has said no in Boston, has said no in Fall River. I've already met in Massachusetts with people who have concerns about this plant being built in the state of Rhode Island. Massachusetts was able to remove this initiative from their plate, and now they're coming to Rhode Island that if there was some kind of explosion, the damage is the extent of the damage could be 14-mile radius that would reach Massachusetts. Sure. So at this point, if they're not hearing, we'll just have to work with Massachusetts, and they will need to hear and listen.